upset with the referee, screaming on the referee, but gets no technical foul.
So as you can see, Caitlin's going back and forth with this referee number 39. And then he says something where she actually has to be held back. She gets so upset that she has to be held back by one of her coaches.
Watch this. She walks up. This is just rude. Grow up. Come here, calling the referee over like a mother about to scold their child. Unbelievable.
No referee would let a player away with screaming like that, screaming at them like that. The referee 100% said something completely out of pocket.
And now you have a tweet that goes out from Caitlin Clark's brother that says, make no mistake, this is on the reffing. And this is right after she seemingly got injured again.
All the referees do in these scenarios is make the game about them.
Caitlin Clark just told a WNBA referee to grow up and threatened to call the league on him, yet somehow walked away without a technical foul. That's not normal. When a player breaks free from their coach's grip, marches back to an official, and starts yelling, "That's just rude, grow up, come here," they get ejected. But referee Mike Price just stood there and took it like a scolded.
Caitlin Clark just told a WNBA referee to grow up and threatened to call the league on him, yet somehow walked away without a technical foul. That's not normal. When a player breaks free from their coach's grip, marches back to an official, and starts yelling, "That's just rude, grow up, come here," they usually get ejected. But referee Mike Price just stood there and took it like a scolded child, which tells you everything about what he said to make the biggest star in women's basketball completely lose her composure.
You know what that told me? That told me whatever that referee said was a big no-no. Whatever that referee said, as soon as it left his mouth, he said, damn, I definitely should not have said that. Nah, I crossed the line. Because you don't get screamed on by a player like that. You don't get shown up on the court by a player like that and not call a technical foul unless you are in the wrong.
The incident happened in the third quarter of Tuesday night's game between the Indiana Fever and the Connecticut Sun at TD Garden in Boston. Referees were reviewing whether the ball had gone out of bounds off the Fever or the Sun after a missed shot. It was a simple call, a routine review, nothing controversial. But during that dead time, something occurred between Clark and Price that turned a normal conversation into an absolute explosion. Clark was calmly discussing the play when Price apparently said something that crossed a professional line. You could see the exact moment it happened. Clark went from composed to livid in under 2 seconds.
As soon as the ref says that, he's walking away, and she loses it. She's absolutely losing it.
Caitlin Clark had an interaction with the referee, and we still don't know what this referee actually said.
If the ref said something crazy to Caitlin, and then Caitlin got teed up, immediately, he's probably like, immediately it's going to be rescinded. She says, I'll be calling, presumably the league, to report whatever was.
Whatever Price said hit her like a slap in the face, and her reaction was immediate and furious. Honestly, when you see a referee cross the line like this with the league's biggest star, it makes you wonder how deep this problem really goes. Assistant coach Brian January saw what was happening and rushed over to pull Clark away, but she wasn't having it. She broke free from January's grip like she was escaping a restraining hold and marched right back to Price, pointing her finger and letting him have it.
But look at this, ready? We have a coach pulling her back to the huddle. Instead of being instead of actually talking to her, hey, Caitlin, I got this, put her to the huddle and step in for her and talk. No, this coach is just more concerned about playing along, playing politics. Let me just pull her back.
That's just rude. Grow up. Come here. Come here. Unbelievable. I will be calling the league on you. Clark literally called over a grown man like he was a misbehaving toddler in need of a timeout. Those weren't the words of a player angry about a bad call. Those were the words of someone who had just been deeply disrespected. The most telling part, what didn't happen next? Price stood there and took every word without even reaching for his whistle, as if his hands were suddenly paralyzed. In professional basketball, yelling at an official like that is an automatic technical foul. Breaking free from coaches to continue the argument? Often an ejection. But Price knew he had messed up so badly that calling a tech would only make it worse.
With how this game has been going, how this game has been officiated, and then this referee doesn't call a technical foul on Caitlin Clark. And that makes me believe that whatever he said was clearly out of bounds, clearly uncalled for, and a big fat no-no.
Depending on what the ref said, I think she has every right to lose it at a ref this year. and she has absolutely every right to lose it at least one ref this year.
Think about what that means. A referee allowed himself to be publicly embarrassed on national television rather than compound his mistake with a technical foul. Price knew that if he gave Clark a tech after whatever he had said, it would trigger an investigation that could end his career faster than you can say inappropriate conduct. So he swallowed his pride and let the biggest star in the WNBA dress him down in front of 19,000 fans, like she was his disappointed mother. This wasn't Clark being a diva. It wasn't about a close call. This was a 23-year-old woman standing up for herself after being spoken to in a way so inappropriate, even the referee knew he couldn't punish her for reacting. His inaction was basically an admission of guilt.
In this game that were so egregiously called, or there was no calls by the referees, and it's getting out of control at this point.
The refereeing yesterday, we see Tina Charles hit AB with a stiff forearm, literally turns around and hits her with a stiff forearm. We see Sophie Cunningham get elbowed in her neck, no call, saying that she flopped. The referees yesterday, they were in a league of their own in terms of incompetence.
Even though the Fever won 85-77, the physical toll on Clark was evident from the opening tip. She struggled all night, shooting just 4 of 14 from the field and 1 of 7 from three-point range. Her 14 points, 8 rebounds, and 7 assists were solid, but the frustration showed with every missed shot. The Connecticut Sun came into the game with the WNBA's worst record at 3-19, but they played like they had nothing to lose and something to prove by targeting the league's golden girl. They were physical, aggressive, and constantly testing the limits of what referees would allow. Tina Charles threw elbows and forearms all night like she was auditioning for the UFC, including one blatant shot to Aaliyah Boston's face that somehow wasn't called a flagrant foul. 7. Apparently, contact is legal when you're wearing a Connecticut Sun jersey. The officials seemed determined to let them play, which always favors the more physical team. Connecticut took full advantage, bumping Clark on every screen, hand-checking her on every possession, and making sure she felt contact every time she touched the ball. The referees allowed it to continue, creating an environment where Clark had to fight for every call while her opponents got away with everything short of using actual weapons. This pattern of inconsistent officiating has haunted Clark all season, like a toxic relationship she can't escape. One game, refs call everything tight. The next, they let players get away with assault. The physical punishment Clark has taken night after night is beginning to show. Late in the fourth quarter, after passing to Kelsey Mitchell, Clark grabbed her groin and grimaced in pain, the same injury that sidelined her earlier this season. This time, it looked worse. She tried to walk it off, but the pain was written all over her face. With 39 seconds left and Indiana up by 9, she had to come out. As she walked to the bench, the tears came. This wasn't just physical pain. It was emotional exhaustion. Dealing with inappropriate comments from refs, constant physical contact from opponents, and the pressure of carrying an entire league on her back has taken its toll.
The Connecticut Sun literally, they defended Caitlin one way the entire game, and the referees were biting their whistle. They were refusing to give up anything, and then in the fourth quarter, at the end of the game, they suddenly start calling everything, and that was a big factor in the game. Like, the referees were horrible.
There's been so many things, so many players calling out the referees, so many players calling out the physicality, so many players getting injured this season, from superstars to players on the bench, from season-ending injuries to rib injuries to concussions. There have been just so many things, and it does.
The sight of Clark breaking down on the bench was heartbreaking. She's dealt with more controversy, more criticism, and more physical punishment than any second-year player in WNBA history. Every game brings a new challenge, whether it's officials crossing lines, opponents targeting her, or relentless media scrutiny. At this point, Clark could cure cancer and someone would still complain about her form. Head coach Stephanie White confirmed after the game that Clark felt something in her groin and would be evaluated. The timing couldn't be worse, with the defending champion New York Liberty coming to town next. Her availability is now uncertain. 10. The groin injury is particularly concerning because it's a recurrence. Groin injuries are notoriously tough to heal, especially when players come back too soon. The fact she was in tears suggests this might be more serious than anyone is letting on. And what's worse, the injury wasn't even from contact. Clark simply made a pass and felt something pop. That suggests the constant pounding she takes every game has worn her down. Let's be honest, the officiating has failed her. Mike Price's failure to give her a tech wasn't mercy, it was damage control. He knew an investigation could cost him his job. That's why he stood silent. But that silence speaks volumes. The WNBA